Sometimes what we see on screen isn't acting, it's reality breaking through the script. From shocking accidents to unscripted emotions and iconic improvisations, some of the most unforgettable scenes in film history weren't planned at all. Whether it's a heart-pounding stunt or a spontaneous laugh that became legendary, these moments reveal just how unpredictable and powerful filmmaking can be. Today we're uncovering 20 movie scenes where fiction collided with real life, and what happened wasn't in the script. Let's dive in and see which ones you'll never watch the same way again. Real blood in a Tarantino dinner scene. There are moments in cinema where a single unscripted action becomes more memorable than anything written in the script. One of the most striking examples of this happened during a pivotal dinner scene in Django Unchained, and it involved an unexpected injury that made the final cut. While delivering an intense monologue at the dinner table, Leonardo DiCaprio's character slams his hand onto a glass, accidentally breaking it. The result wasn't just a dramatic flourish. It was real. DiCaprio's palm was genuinely cut by the shattered glass, causing visible bleeding. What makes this moment extraordinary is that instead of stopping the scene, DiCaprio continued acting. He stayed completely in character, using the injury to fuel the scene's emotional tension. His co-stars, visibly surprised by the unexpected development, reacted naturally, adding even more realism to the scene. Director Quentin Tarantino later confirmed that the entire take was so powerful and believable that they decided to keep it in the final version of the film. The blood seen on DiCaprio's hand is entirely real, and his ability to push through the pain became a widely discussed example of extreme dedication to performance. The incident not only became iconic, but also sparked conversations about the lengths to which actors go for authenticity. What could have been a moment to cut and reset instead became one of the most unforgettable scenes in modern cinema. It's a clear reminder that sometimes the most gripping performances come from what no one sees coming. Terror at sea in Jaws. Fear on screen is often carefully choreographed, but in one unforgettable moment from Jaws, it was as real as it gets. The film's opening scene, where a young woman is attacked in the water, became one of the most terrifying sequences in cinematic history. Not because of clever editing, but because of genuine panic. Susan Backlund, who played Chrissy Watkins, was strapped to a mechanical rig hidden beneath the water to simulate the shark pulling her under. What she didn't know was exactly when or how the rig would activate. This lack of warning meant her screams and thrashing weren't part of a performance. They were authentic reactions to unexpected jolts and sudden plunges. Director Steven Spielberg deliberately withheld this information to capture a raw, visceral response. The resulting scene set a new standard for psychological horror, with viewers sharing in the unpredictable terror of the character. The physical strain on Backlund was real too. She later admitted that the experience was more intense than she anticipated, with bruises to prove it. The authenticity of her panic not only elevated the scene's effectiveness, but also helped define the film's tone. Jaws went on to terrify generations of moviegoers and redefine the thriller genre. The realism in that first attack made audiences question whether what they were watching was staged, or if someone was truly in danger. It's a powerful example of how sometimes the most spine-chilling horror comes not from effects or makeup, but from moments that catch even the actors by surprise. Here's Johnny, and a real door smash. Tension builds slowly, then crashes down, sometimes quite literally. One of the most quoted moments in horror history wasn't just terrifying for viewers, it was unnervingly real on set. During the infamous axe scene in The Shining, Jack Nicholson wasn't faking the fury as he hacked through a door. The intensity came from more than his performance. It came from genuine force and improvised brilliance. In the scene, Nicholson's character is pursuing his terrified wife, who barricades herself in a bathroom. As the camera rolls, Nicholson shatters the door with an axe and delivers the now iconic line, "Here's Johnny." But here's the twist. That line wasn't in the script. It was entirely improvised, drawn from a famous TV introduction used on The Tonight Show. Director Stanley Kubrick, despite his reputation for controlling every detail, decided to keep it in because of its sheer impact. But the realism didn't stop there. Nicholson had worked as a volunteer firefighter and attacked the prop door so aggressively that he broke through far too quickly, forcing the crew to replace it with a sturdier version. Meanwhile, Shelley Duvall, who played his on-screen wife, wasn't just acting frightened. She was exhausted from months of emotionally intense filming. Kubrick's harsh directing style wore her down, and her terrified expression in the scene was deeply authentic. The final cut is a fusion of spontaneous brilliance, real physicality, and raw emotion. It continues to unsettle viewers to this day because it captures something more than just performance. It captures a moment of psychological and physical collapse that wasn't entirely pretend. Real breakdown on a chaotic set. Chaos behind the camera can sometimes spill right into the frame, and no film captured that better than Apocalypse Now. Its opening scene features a haunting sequence of psychological unraveling that wasn't just expertly acted, but genuinely lived. In that scene, Martin Sheen's character, tormented and lost in a Saigon hotel room, spirals into a full-blown breakdown. What most viewers didn't realize is that Sheen's anguish wasn't entirely scripted. He was genuinely struggling at the time, emotionally and physically drained by the production's intense conditions. Director Francis Ford Coppola, known for pushing boundaries, encouraged Sheen to use his real emotions during the scene. Sheen was reportedly under the influence, exhausted, and teetering on the edge. He began to punch a mirror, cutting his hand and smearing blood across his face. Rather than calling for a cut, Coppola kept the cameras rolling, capturing the raw breakdown as it unfolded. The result was a chillingly authentic portrayal of a man consumed by inner turmoil. What makes this moment stand out is how deeply it reflects the real challenges of making Apocalypse Now, a film plagued by production delays, health issues, and environmental extremes. Sheen's vulnerability became a mirror for the film's own descent into madness, and it gave the character a level of emotional realism that couldn't have been scripted. The scene remains one of the most powerful in war cinema, not just because of its visual impact, but because it documents a very real human moment captured on film, a breakdown both in character and in reality. Backboard magic in a sci-fi sequel. Some scenes are so jaw-dropping that audiences assume they were faked with camera tricks or digital effects. But in one unexpected moment from Alien Resurrection, what you see is exactly what happened, and it was all real, captured in a single take that stunned everyone on set. In a scene where Ripley, played by Sigourney Weaver, is casually dominating a game of basketball aboard a space station, she attempts an over-the-shoulder, no-look shot while walking away from the hoop. This wasn't a computer-generated trick or a clever camera angle. Weaver actually made the shot herself, without any digital help, wire support, or editing cuts. What makes the moment even more impressive is how far away she was when she released the ball. She was standing roughly 6 feet behind the three-point line, making the shot not only dramatic, but physically challenging. The plan was originally to cut away before the ball hit the hoop and then fake the result, but Weaver insisted on trying it herself. When she sank the basket, the crew erupted in disbelief. Her co-stars' reactions were genuine. Ron Perlman, in particular, nearly broke character due to how surprised he was. Director Jean-Pierre Jeunet was so impressed that he scrapped the idea of using visual effects and kept the real shot in the film. This moment became a fan favorite not just for its cool factor, but because it added an unexpected layer of authenticity to a futuristic film. It also showed how Weaver's commitment to her role extended beyond acting. Sometimes it meant delivering a once-in-a-lifetime trick shot that even professional athletes would admire. A jewelry box gag that stole the scene. Not every unforgettable moment in film comes from meticulous planning. Sometimes a spontaneous decision turns into a defining scene, and that's exactly what happened during a charming exchange in Pretty Woman. In one of the film's most iconic moments, Edward, played by Richard Gere, presents Vivian, played by Julia Roberts, with a jewelry box. The scene was supposed to be a simple, romantic gesture, but just before handing over the necklace, Gere made a quick, unscripted move. He snapped the box shut as Roberts reached for it. The surprise was completely genuine. Julia Roberts' reaction, an instant burst of laughter and surprise, was so natural that the crew couldn't help but laugh along. Director Gary Marshall loved the spontaneity so much, he decided to keep it in the final cut. What could have been a routine handoff turned into one of the film's most beloved moments. Behind the scenes, Marshall reportedly told Gere to try something playful, knowing Roberts wouldn't expect it. He even made sure the box had a soft hinge so she wouldn't get hurt. Roberts, only 23 at the time, brought an infectious energy to the role, and this candid reaction captured her youthful spirit perfectly. The scene helped solidify Pretty Woman as more than just a romantic comedy. It became a film full of genuine moments that made the characters feel real. The unscripted gag humanized their chemistry, creating a scene that felt less like acting and more like a real-life spark. It's proof that sometimes the most enduring magic on screen comes from moments no one could have planned. Painfully funny and completely unscripted. Comedy often relies on timing, delivery, and a bit of discomfort, but rarely is that discomfort entirely real. In The 40-Year-Old Virgin, one of the film's most hysterical moments came not from the script, but from an actual experience that had the entire crew laughing and cringing behind the camera. In the now famous chest-waxing scene, Steve Carell didn't act through a special effect or makeup trick. He really got waxed, on camera, in real time. The director, Judd Apatow, wanted genuine reactions and pitched the idea to Carell, who boldly agreed. What followed was a mix of intense pain, improvised outbursts, and comedic gold. The crew used 5 cameras to capture every angle, knowing that there wouldn't be a second take. Carell had no idea exactly how painful it would be, and that's what made it work so perfectly. His screams, flinches, and famously shouted line, "Kelly Clarkson," were completely authentic. The cast members around him struggled to stay in character, some visibly turning away to hide their laughter. Beyond the laughs, this moment showcased Carell's dedication to comedy. He endured real pain to sell the scene, elevating what could have been an average gag into one of the most iconic physical comedy moments in modern film. Audiences didn't just laugh, they winced along with him. It's a rare blend of hilarity and empathy, where the reality of the moment deepened its impact. That single take helped define the film's tone, raw, awkward, and unforgettably human. Laughter that made movie history. Sometimes the most iconic scenes in cinema aren't planned. They're born from pure, unexpected moments. One perfect example comes from The Usual Suspects, where a serious lineup scene turned into something unforgettable, all because the actors couldn't stop laughing. The original intention was clear. The characters, lined up in a police station, were supposed to deliver their lines with a straight face, adding intensity to the moment. But as the camera rolled, something hilarious happened. One of the actors flubbed a line or made a noise, and the others couldn't hold back their laughter. Instead of calling for another take, director Bryan Singer let the moment play out, and he ended up capturing lightning in a bottle. What makes this scene so memorable is how human it feels. The characters' smirks, chuckles, and side eyes weren't rehearsed. They were completely real. The energy was contagious, and it changed the tone of the scene in a way that added unexpected depth. Rather than a cold, intimidating introduction to these criminals, it showed their personalities and camaraderie in a way no script could have predicted. Singer later admitted that he had a tough time getting a straight take because someone kept breaking character. Eventually, he embraced the chaos. That decision paid off, giving the film one of its most recognizable and talked about moments. It's proof that magic can happen when filmmakers trust their actors and let real emotion take over. The resulting scene is funny, authentic, and oddly disarming, qualities that helped make The Usual Suspects a modern classic. A cry of unity that wasn't in the script. Some lines in film become legendary, not because they were written that way, but because they resonated far beyond the screen. One of the most powerful examples of this can be found in Spartacus, during a moment that transformed a scripted scene into a timeless symbol of unity and defiance. In the film's climactic sequence, Roman soldiers demand that the enslaved men identify Spartacus. Just as the hero prepares to stand up and sacrifice himself, something extraordinary happens. One by one, the others around him rise and proclaim, "I'm Spartacus." While the general structure of the scene was planned, the passion and delivery from the cast were far more spontaneous. Each actor, understanding the weight of the moment, infused their performance with genuine emotion. Rather than following a rigid cue, many added subtle inflections and reactions, creating a wave of solidarity that felt completely authentic. This wasn't just a dramatic choice, it carried deep meaning. Released during a time of political division and the Hollywood blacklist, the film's screenwriter, Dalton Trumbo, had himself been blacklisted for refusing to testify before Congress. The scene became a quiet act of rebellion, with the entire cast participating in a message that echoed far beyond the story. The impact was enormous. Viewers didn't just see slaves standing together. They saw a message of courage, integrity, and resistance to unjust power. The moment became one of the most quoted in cinema, and a cultural reference that endures even decades later. It's proof that sometimes the most iconic lines aren't just part of a script. They're shaped by history, emotion, and the people brave enough to speak them. A fictional show became a real memorial. Sometimes television transcends entertainment and becomes something deeply human. That's exactly what happened in Glee during its tribute episode to Cory Monteith. What was meant to be a fictional farewell turned into a heartfelt, emotional memorial that blurred the line between acting and reality. Monteith, who played Finn Hudson, was a central figure on the show and a beloved part of the cast. After his sudden passing, the producers faced a delicate challenge: how to honor both the character and the actor in a way that felt sincere. The result was an episode unlike anything Glee had ever aired. Rather than filling the screen with scripted drama, the episode was stripped down and raw. Cast members performed songs with visible emotion, and many couldn't hold back real tears. Lea Michele, Monteith's partner, both on and off screen, delivered a performance that shook viewers. Her voice cracked, her hands trembled, and every second was heartbreakingly authentic. No character was shown grieving more than another, allowing the audience to focus on the emotion rather than a structured plot. The effect was powerful. It didn't feel like television. It felt like mourning in real time, captured with honesty and vulnerability. What made the episode stand out wasn't just its sadness, but its bravery. It allowed the cast, and millions of fans around the world, to say goodbye, not just to a character, but to a friend. The authenticity turned the moment into something unforgettable. It was a rare instance where fiction paused and reality spoke louder, reminding us that behind the roles and performances are real people, carrying real love and loss. A stray cat softened a crime lord. Legendary scenes are often the result of meticulous planning, but sometimes it's the unplanned moments that leave the biggest mark. One of the most iconic examples of this happened in The Godfather, where an unexpected visitor padded its way into film history. During the opening office scene, Don Vito Corleone sits behind his desk, calmly stroking a cat as he listens to a request for justice. The feline's steady purring and Brando's quiet demeanor created a powerful juxtaposition, softness and menace in the same frame. But that cat wasn't part of the original plan. Director Francis Ford Coppola later revealed that the cat was a stray wandering around the studio lot. Marlon Brando spotted it just before filming and spontaneously decided to bring it into the scene. It wasn't trained or prepped. It simply curled up in Brando's lap and started purring. What makes this moment so remarkable is how it enhanced the character without a single word of dialogue. Brando's portrayal of Don Corleone was already subtle and restrained, but the cat added an almost chilling gentleness to a man capable of ruthless decisions. The image became iconic, helping define the tone of the film and the complexity of its characters. Ironically, the cat purred so loudly that it caused technical issues with Brando's audio, forcing the sound team to re-record some of his lines in post-production. Still, the creative decision stuck and became one of the most recognizable visuals in movie history. It was a perfect example of how spontaneity, when embraced, can create cinematic magic. One shot, one cliff, one insane stunt. In a genre filled with sleek gadgets and slick effects, one moment in The Spy Who Loved Me delivered something so real, so daring, that it left audiences stunned. It didn't rely on CGI or clever editing. It was pure human courage, captured in a single, unforgettable take. The film opens with a high-stakes chase through snowy mountains. James Bond, pursued by enemies, skis toward the edge of a massive cliff. With nowhere else to go, he launches into the air and free falls into a breathtaking silence before opening a parachute emblazoned with the Union Jack. The stunt didn't just look real, it was real. The man behind the leap was legendary stunt performer Rick Sylvester. At the time, no one had ever attempted a ski-base jump like it. The production team waited weeks for the perfect conditions, knowing they had only one chance to get it right. There were no safety wires, no green screens, just a man on skis, a 3,000-foot drop, and a parachute that had to open flawlessly. The silence between the jump and the parachute deployment added to the suspense. Viewers held their breath, watching the screen in disbelief. When the chute finally opened, it was a moment of cinematic triumph, both on screen and behind the scenes. Director Lewis Gilbert said everyone watching the monitor erupted in cheers. It was not just a successful stunt, but a history-making moment that pushed the boundaries of what was possible in film. The opening of The Spy Who Loved Me remains one of the most thrilling in Bond history, not because of special effects, but because it was the real thing, and nothing beats real. Flying dangerously close to disaster. Action movies often give us jaw-dropping sequences, but few match the real-life danger captured in Terminator 2, Judgment Day. One of the film's most intense moments didn't rely on CGI or digital tricks. It relied on a daring stunt pilot and a camera crew brave enough to capture it. In the high-octane chase near the end of the film, a helicopter follows a truck through a narrow freeway underpass. But this wasn't a miniature or green screen shot. Director James Cameron insisted on filming the sequence practically, which meant a real helicopter had to duck under a bridge at high speed and low altitude, with only inches to spare. Stunt pilot Charles A. Tamburo was the one trusted with the maneuver. He flew the full-size chopper under the bridge not once, but multiple times. The move was so risky that even the camera crew refused to be in the helicopter during the stunt. Instead, the rig was remotely operated, while the pilot made his dangerous pass below steel girders and over speeding vehicles. Cameron's obsession with realism paid off. The scene pulses with genuine tension because the danger was real. There's no digital buffer, no post-production trickery, just precise flying and nerves of steel. The visual impact is unforgettable and adds to the film's already intense momentum. It's a moment that showcases how far some filmmakers and stunt teams are willing to go to raise the stakes. And in Terminator 2, that commitment to authenticity helped define the film's legacy as one of the greatest action spectacles ever made. A comedy took a frightening turn. Not every behind-the-scenes mishap in filmmaking is harmless, and one of the most chilling examples happened during a movie known for its charm and humor. In Back to the Future, Part 3, a moment meant to deliver suspense almost turned into something far more serious. And what's most shocking is that the take stayed in the final cut. The scene takes place in the Old West, where Marty McFly is cornered and left hanging by the neck in a public square. It's a dramatic setup that gives the film one of its darker moments, but during filming, it became all too real. Michael J. Fox was suspended by a safety harness that was meant to keep him safely off the ground, but it failed for a brief but terrifying moment. As the cameras rolled, Fox's neck took more pressure than expected. The crew initially thought he was acting when he began to thrash and go limp. In reality, he was losing consciousness. Only after a few seconds did the team realize something was wrong and rushed to cut him down. Amazingly, Fox recovered quickly and insisted on finishing the scene later. But what's even more surprising is that the footage of the incident was used in the film. When you watch the final cut, you're seeing the exact moment Fox was accidentally choked. His struggling and stillness weren't performed. They were frighteningly real. Despite being part of a fun, time-traveling adventure, that scene stands as a stark reminder of how dangerous filmmaking can be. Even in the lightest stories, reality sometimes finds a way to break through the fiction. A song that changed the script. Some moments in cinema are so haunting that they linger long after the credits roll. One of the most disturbing, and strangely iconic, came from A Clockwork Orange, when a familiar song collided with an unsettling act. What made it even more powerful was that it wasn't part of the plan at all. In the infamous home invasion scene, Alex and his gang terrorize a couple in their own home. It's a deeply uncomfortable moment, but what elevated it to another level of horror was the decision to have Malcolm McDowell sing "Singin' in the Rain" as he carried out the act. The song's cheerful tone clashed so sharply with the scene's cruelty that it became unforgettable. The most chilling part? That choice came entirely from McDowell. Director Stanley Kubrick was struggling to make the scene work during filming. After multiple takes, McDowell began to sing the classic tune spontaneously, dancing and moving with eerie joy. Kubrick was so shaken and impressed that he immediately rewrote the scene to include it. The result is one of the most talked about sequences in film history. The juxtaposition of joyful melody and disturbing imagery created an emotional dissonance that unsettled audiences worldwide. It didn't just serve the character, it made a statement about how violence and charm can be terrifyingly intertwined. That one improvised decision reshaped the tone of the entire film. It's a reminder that even in the most carefully controlled environments, an actor's instinct can unlock something far more powerful than a director ever imagined. A shocking shave that wasn't in the script. In a film that thrives on excess and unpredictable energy, one unscripted moment managed to outdo even the wildest scenes. During a raucous office party in The Wolf of Wall Street, an extra did something no one saw coming. She shaved her head live on camera, completely unrehearsed and unplanned. The scene called for outrageous behavior, part of the firm's over-the-top celebration of debauchery and recklessness. While the actors danced and screamed, Natasha Newman, who was playing a minor role as an office worker, grabbed a pair of clippers and went for it. Right there in the middle of filming, she shaved her head in front of the entire cast and crew. What made the moment truly astonishing was that no one had asked her to do it. It was a spontaneous decision that director Martin Scorsese didn't see coming. But once it happened, he kept the cameras rolling. The shock and excitement on the faces of the cast were genuine, capturing the chaos and absurdity the movie thrived on. The rawness of that decision mirrored the film's unhinged atmosphere. It was bizarre, bold, and completely in character with the world being portrayed. For a film that blurred the line between fiction and frenzy, that moment became a symbol of how far performers were willing to go to match the movie's manic tone. It's a reminder that sometimes the most memorable scenes don't come from careful planning. They explode from instinct, adrenaline, and the freedom to surprise even the director. Sitcom chaos that left the cast in tears. In a show built on timing and chemistry, one of the most beloved scenes from Friends turned into an unscripted gem of comedy. It was meant to be silly, but what made it unforgettable was the cast's genuine inability to hold it together. The setup was classic Ross, attempting to play the bagpipes in preparation for Monica and Chandler's wedding. The moment was already over the top on paper, but David Schwimmer took it to the next level by actually learning how to play the instrument, at least enough to make the scene hilariously awful. He screeched out the tune of Celebration with such confident enthusiasm that it instantly pushed the scene into chaotic brilliance. What truly made the moment iconic, though, was the reaction from the rest of the cast. Their laughter wasn't written into the script. It was completely real. Jennifer Aniston visibly broke character, covering her mouth to stifle her giggles. Lisa Kudrow, always a scene stealer, leaned into the chaos by singing along off-key, improvising in real time. The production team loved the spontaneity so much that they decided to keep those reactions in the final cut. It didn't feel like acting. It felt like friends trying not to laugh at each other, which is exactly what made Friends so relatable and enduring. That one scene is a perfect snapshot of why the series works so well. Smart writing, bold choices, and actors so in sync that even their real moments of laughter could become television gold. A scene that crossed the line, for real. Some directors push the boundaries of realism, but few go as far as what happened behind the scenes of Inglourious Basterds. One intense moment in the film became infamous, not because of visual effects or editing tricks, but because of what actually happened during filming. In the scene, Bridget von Hammersmark, played by Diane Kruger, is strangled to death. It's a critical turning point in the movie, filled with escalating tension and betrayal. But what many viewers don't know is that director Quentin Tarantino didn't leave this moment to the hands of a stunt performer, or even the film's antagonist. He did it himself. Tarantino believed the only way to get the reaction he wanted, the desperate gasping, the raw emotion, was to physically perform the act. With Kruger's consent, he took the place of the actor and applied the pressure. The camera focused in close as his hands tightened around her throat, capturing the intensity and vulnerability in real time. While the decision was agreed upon by both parties, the atmosphere on set was tense. The moment was rehearsed and safety measures were in place, but the discomfort was real. Kruger later acknowledged the scene was difficult to shoot, but trusted Tarantino to do it safely. The result is a scene that feels painfully authentic. The trembling, the struggle, the terrifying quiet. It's not just acting. It's a raw, unfiltered response that blurs the line between performance and reality. It's a moment that lingers long after the scene ends, showing just how far some filmmakers are willing to go to chase truth, even in fiction. When method acting went too far. In a holiday classic filled with slapstick and heartfelt laughs, one behind-the-scenes moment left a surprising mark, literally. While filming Home Alone, a comedic bit turned a little too real when actor Joe Pesci gave young Macaulay Culkin something to remember him by, a bite that actually drew blood. The moment happened during a scene where Pesci's character, the short-tempered burglar Harry, finally gets his hands on Kevin McAllister. Meant to be cartoony and chaotic, the physicality between them was exaggerated for laughs. But when Pesci lunged at Culkin's finger, he didn't hold back quite enough. The bite wasn't part of the plan. In the heat of the scene, Pesci chomped down with enough force to cause real pain and blood. Culkin, just 9 years old at the time, was genuinely shocked. Though he handled it professionally, he later revealed the incident left a small scar that he still has today. What's more surprising is that the footage remained in the final cut of the film. The intensity in Culkin's reaction is real, adding a flash of authenticity to the comedic chaos. It's one of those rare moments when a film meant for fun carries an unexpected sting of realism. Despite the injury, Culkin harbored no bad feelings. He's joked about it in interviews, and the story has become part of the movie's strange legacy. What began as a kid's comedy ended with a moment that blended humor, method acting, and just a touch of real pain. It's a fitting way to close out a list of scenes where fiction and reality collided, sometimes with laughter, sometimes with scars. From broken skin to real breakdowns and unscripted laughs, one thing is clear. Some of the most unforgettable moments in film weren't planned at all, whether it was a dangerous stunt, a spontaneous burst of emotion, or a shocking mistake that made it into the final cut. These real-life intrusions remind us that truth can be more powerful than fiction. Which of these scenes shocked you the most? Drop a comment and tell us which one you'll never be able to watch the same way again. Like and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes truths you won't find in the credits. And don't miss the next video coming up now. You won't believe what happened after the cameras stopped rolling.